Hey everyone, and welcome back to our Sunday morning live stream. We are the IDP guys. I'm joined today with Johnny
Hey,
and Gary,
Hey, what's happening?
and y'all should know me. I'm Nathan. Welcome, and we're going to talk a little bit today about the games yesterday. We're in divisional playoff weekend. We got games this afternoon, so we'll talk a bit about that, and we will be talking a bit about a new database that we're going to be putting on the website that's going to hopefully revolutionize your research in IDP, your use of data, and it's Gary's pet project. We brought him in, and we've been kind of playing around with this throughout since he started, but now it's done. It's we're gonna be putting it on the site. Gary, happy to have you, and happy to have this.
Happy to be here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You guys might notice we're a little light this week. Sam is having technical and health problems, I guess, or just the technical problems are affecting his health. And Joe is we are meeting him in person. This is going to be kind of cool. He's driving. He's on his way. He won't be on the show, unfortunately, but we will be kicking it with some football. And so with that, Johnny, you're kind of wearing the topic to start with here.
Yeah.
How about them Cowboys?
Well, I've always been kind of the strange Cowboys fan because I'm not an optimist like most of them. I'm more of a pessimist or a realist. And realistically, this was a good season. I'll take it. Like they went 10-6. They won a division. They won a playoff game. They only lost by 8 to a super good Rams team.
How about them Cowboys?
Hold on. I'm getting feedback on this thing.
That's me.
Oh, okay.
Gary's watching the feed.
I thought that was my phone. I'm like, what the heck? I thought I put it on mute.
John, I don't get to see you much the way we usually do these windows, so I thought I'd experiment here.
I'm doing the same thing. I just thought I had my volume up.
My bad.
No, that's all right. But yeah, I mean, all in all, they made it interesting. Dak played well. It was just, the rushing was the difference. They ran for 270 something. We ran for like 40, 50 yards. Something like that. To win that game, it would have had to been reversed. Like, we would have needed to own time of possession and have that many rushing yards. And, even with all that going against us, it was still only an 8-point game. So I'll take it. Dak's still young. Zeke's still young. They're the only playoff team where all the starters are at or under the age of 30.
Oh, my God. They're going to be relevant.
For a while.
For a while.
Yeah.
For a while.
Right. The one thing that pissed me off, though, was Sean Lee coming in there taking snaps from Van Der Esch. I don't know if that's a great idea. Like, Van Der Esch is the future. We may as well give him as much playoff experience as possible, but that's not up to me. But I don't know. All in all, I'm not too upset about it. I'll take it.
Nice.
What'd you guys
I got to
think?
agree with you there, man. I didn't even... we talked a little bit before we started. I hadn't even noticed. I watched the game. I mainly, was paying attention when the Cowboys were on offense.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't really watch that rotation of what was going on. And that's almost unthinkable thing to do after having Sean Lee sit so much. The guy, I mean, there's a such thing as being game shape,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
and having that intensity and having it carry over week to week. And that was just a poor decision. They should have just, Sean Lee is a veteran. He deserves respect, but, not in a playoff game, not after how this situation played out. They shouldn't have done that.
It's win
Might have
or
made
go
a
home.
difference.
Yeah.
Win or go home. No one's ego, no one's deserving plays into it at all. It's if you can't win with that person in, you don't play them. So And who knows what was going on the field. Maybe something happened with Van Der Esch. Maybe he needed like a couple plays off or whatever. We really don't know. But it's strange because this is twice before that Jerry Jones was like, "Oh, Sean Lee's coming in. He's gonna start this game," and then he didn't. But it's like, okay, that finally caught up. Maybe he was bitching at Jason Garrett long enough to finally get his way, and this is what happens.
Oh, well, and I mean, Sean Lee has to know what the writing on the wall is. I mean, in my opinion, I think that Sean Lee has out this year, or it's maybe his last year. Maybe they do bring him back. I mean, the future is Van Der Esch and Smith, and the future is right now.
Yeah,
it's not Lee. Lee has shown that over the years he gets the soft tissue injuries. Yeah, I don't know. I think the next thing they need to do is, besides going ahead and let Sean Lee ride off into the sunset somewhere, or as the third guy as a backup role, and is replace Jeff Heath. That was just outrageous. He completely blew that last play that Goff got the first down to seal the game.
Yeah. I think they were in a tough spot regardless. I just felt like the momentum was
true, but that sealed the deal.
It really did. That was the play that kind of ended it all. So, but it's all the plays that leads up to that too.
Yeah, no sacks. One sack for either team. First of all, that was surprising. And then that Cowboys defensive line couldn't sack Goff even once. Like that Rams offensive line is crazy, man. Like
they really stood up.
Yeah, they let they got fat C.J. Anderson to run for like $150 and 2 touchdowns. B, they didn't let any sacks happen the entire game. And that's not a terrible Cowboys defensive line at all. You got Lawrence, Irving, Taco Charlton. You got a bunch of guys that can rush the passer.
I think.
Go ahead, Nick.
I think one of the storylines of this is just two of the best offensive lines in the NFL and two defensive lines that are ranked up there too, colliding and where that what gives because if you looked like the Rams were giving the fucking lanes, opening up the lanes for C.J. Anderson. That I probably could have rushed for 100 yards and a couple touchdowns. It was all C.J. Anderson had to do was get through that pile of bodies in the right at the beginning
and roll and just roll because at what 300 pounds, right?
They kept saying
and just roll through.
They said he was 225. There's no way that guy's 225. Like,
oh my gosh, that's all Twinkie weight.
Yeah,
right.
But it's interesting, and the
one
fact,
advantage.
Yeah, go ahead.
One advantage: Rams had a bye.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't care. I mean, usually it probably doesn't matter as much, but Rams offensive line rested. They just had their shit together. They had the mental break for a week. They just was, so because I would prefer, I think personally, wasn't before this game, wasn't the Rams actually giving up sacks, the offensive line?
Yeah, they were.
Right. So, I mean, I would kind of prefer in the long haul for what Dallas is offering with Zeke. But at the same time, I mean, you can't. It's like splitting hairs. They had a break, and that was a battle in the trenches, basically.
Yeah, but you also got to take it. Gurley's been off for like a month now, so he's like super rested. So if there's a running back I want in the playoffs, I don't know if it's they've thrown a wrench into that as far as like fantasy purposes, but with C.J. Anderson taking a lot of that production away from him, but he's rested. He's
and why would they
fresh?
I'm confused about that. I really am. What they want to do? Have Gurley sit there and watch Anderson get it, make Gurley hungrier when he did get on the field?
No idea.
Throw a wrench in whatever Jason Garrett was expecting to happen.
True.
That's kind of some Belichick shit right there, if you think
Yeah.
about it.
Yep.
I bet you anything, C.J. Anderson, if he gets stopped at all next week, he's done. That's it.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
If
Yeah.
he was basically maybe a hot hand, and
Yeah.
it worked kind of thing. They're not going to expect C.J. Anderson out there. Everyone thinks C.J. Anderson's washed up. Boom.
Yeah.
100
Yeah.
and something yards and 2 touchdowns.
There was a reason that he was thanking God when he was in the end zone.
Yeah.
Yep.
Next year's payday.
Yeah.
But, well, okay, so we got another game to talk about here. Kansas City and the Colts. That was, I don't know, kind of a snooze fest, right?
Yeah, sure was.
Yeah, I think it was playing. Indianapolis didn't manage to play up to the competition.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah.
Yeah, they couldn't really establish the run from, the first play onward. They were getting stuffed a lot. And there were like 5 or 6 tip passes, too, that played into it. Bunch of 3-and-outs. Like, the Colts were like 0 for 8 on third down for like the first 8 third downs. The only way they scored in the first half was that blocked punt. Like, the KC defense shut them down. Chris Jones had like 2 or 3 tips by himself. Like,
Yeah.
they just shut him down, and I think they got lucky too that Ware wasn't playable, that his hamstring acted out, because Williams did a really great job for them. He kind of controlled the clock, and they did it on their terms and kind of controlled that entire game.
Well, I would think the MVP, in my opinion, would be the Kansas City defensive line.
Yeah, I can see that.
Absolutely.
Oh, me and Nate were talking about this the other day. Where are you buying Chris Jones next year? Because I'm not. By the time I get him, he's going to be gone. Because I've seen 3 years of this guy. This is the first year he's done anything remotely interesting, and I think it's more a result of that team. They go up and score so quickly. They put other teams in the situation where they have to pass early and often. That's why Kendall Fuller is effective, and that's why Chris Jones is effective. I'm not buying the hype, but what do you think, Gary?
Not yet. Let me
Right.
see another year of it. I
Yes.
mean,
Yep.
we know who the top 5, 6 DLs are in the league. Once you get past them, I mean, Chris Jones would probably be right in, right after that group, but you can probably get the same kind of production again next year out of somebody else later in the rounds. I wouldn't go reaching for him crazy. Look at the year that Harrison Smacks had after he went to Lions.
Yeah.
And I mean, that the 81 tackles.
Yeah.
What
That's awesome.
that's goddamn outrageous. That's no fooling on that. And we don't have him in this conversation. Personally, I don't have him in the conversation. I might take him as the 5th or 6th guy off the board, but it can just change for a defensive tackle, and there's other production out there that you can get around that. You're kind of wasting, in my opinion, you're kind of wasting that pick.
So what tier defensive line would you put them in? Like, if you were in a draft, you got your first, your second, and maybe your backup, your third guy.
Because of how I look at defensive linemen to begin with, my top, he's not in my top tier, that's for sure. He's
Right.
and defensive lineman tier by itself, yeah, he's in that second half of tier 1, in a 12-14 team league. Yeah, he's there, but in an overall IDP situation, I mean, you're dropping defensive linemen in my book. You're dropping them all the way down to tier 3, tier 2, late tier 2.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You're getting other positions first.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, what I was saying to Nate yesterday is, all right, so next year going into the draft, Chris Jones is going to go as like a top 10 defensive end or whatever. You're going to pay for him. How many sacks did Frank Clark have this year? 14, right? And where can you get him next year? way down the line.
Yep.
I'll take a sack and a half less and pay nothing for Frank Clark rather than trying to beat everyone to the punch with Chris Jones,
Yeah.
who's a guy that's not nearly as consistent in my eyes. We know what Frank Clark's capable of, and you don't have to
Yeah.
pay a ton for him. So I'd rather
Yeah.
go there than trying to follow everyone's lead where they're expecting 15 and a half sacks again from this guy. Like I'm not seeing it.
Right. Yeah. Well, I hate to keep plugging on Grady Jarrett, but I mean, consistency means something. We all know that. And when it comes to defensive linemen, consistency. So somebody like Grady Jarrett is going to fall even more because he didn't get the sacks this year. But yet, if you look at the combined tackles and what he did on the field, he is, I think it was like top 8, top 6. And you're going to be able to get this guy probably at the later, if we're looking at tiers of defensive linemen, he'll probably fall into the tier 2 category, So it's really, I don't know, to me, it's a funny thing when it comes to defensive linemen. You got to, if it's a sack heavy league, then sure, you want to go big on these guys. But I mean, I don't think the sack heavy format is necessarily taking over. So you got to know what format you're in to begin with. If it's not sack heavy, then you're kind of wasting your pick. I don't care if it's Lawrence. I don't care if it's Boza. In my opinion, if it's not a sack heavy league, then you probably ought to pump the brakes on those defensive linemen early.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's move on to today's games. One of your favorite teams, Gary, the New Orleans Saints and the Eagles. What are you seeing in this game?
I think we're going to run into the same thing almost with the Rams and the Dallas. Like I mentioned, they've had a week off. I know the Saints have been struggling the last few games of this regular season with their offensive going. It's the same guys. This is Powerball play here. You got Drew Brees. You got all these guys know what they're doing. It's not like that Carmelo's a rookie, and you got Michael Thomas. That's who I'm the big fan of. So that's why I'm really a Saints guy. But I almost, in my opinion, I don't think the Foles big dick shit is going to last. I think a week off. I think that the New Orleans defense can maintain Foles and whatever they've got to offer to the point that it's going to allow Breeze to just pick that fucking secondary apart.
Yeah, the only thing that kind of gives me pause with this game is what happened like a couple months ago when the Philly just absolutely got annihilated. It was like 48-7 or something. It was not great, and the Saints were doing like the team picture stuff and choreographed dance moves and rubbing it in and saying, "Oh, we wanted to show everyone that we could kill the Eagles because if we didn't get screwed on that Vikings play last year, we would have played them in the NFC title game, and this is what would have happened." Blah 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 blah. I think all that comes back to haunt them today.
And that's a perfect thing you just brought up. The Saints did not make it past last year because of one play, one whiffed tackle by a rookie. That was it. By Marcus Williams. They were that close then. So I got to roll with New Orleans if I'm.
No, I think they pull it out, but it's going to be a lot closer today. You can't do a team like that and expect them to just roll over when you play them again in the playoffs. Like they're going to be pissed. They're going to have a little extra something to give today. So I think it's going to be a little closer than the Saints would want. But I mean, just in general, the Saints are a much better team. Like that defense, a lot of people haven't paid attention, but that defense has been really good lately. Like really.
Yeah,
good.
that was the funny thing. It seemed like they got better over the year, and the offense struggled the latter part of the year. And here's another main thing. Well, there's two main things. They're playing in New Orleans, and Sean Payton. The Bill Belichick of the NFC, as far as I'm concerned, personally.
Well, speaking of that, I heard something today, and I don't know how true it is, but apparently Sean Payton showed up with a Lombardi Trophy, $275,000 cash with 4 guards into the locker room and asked them, you guys want this? Win 3 games, and
Yeah.
they blew up. So I feel like they want it, and
Yeah, it's Breeze's.
we'll see it.
It's got to be his last rodeo here, man.
Yeah.
They're
Their best chance.
yeah, they're gonna come together for Breeze. I mean, it's any given Sunday. We all know this.
Right,
It's just
right.
like watching. Who would have thought the first half of the NDKC game would have went that way?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it's just same thing. Any given Sunday, but it just you got to have. In my opinion, you got to be more comfortable with what the Saints have and have had for a longer amount of time than what Philadelphia pulled off last year when they made it to when they won the Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think we could be seeing some of the best teams going into the NFC AFC Championship, though. Depending on how this next game plays out, Chargers versus Pats.
Yeah.
You know, I am rooting for the Chargers in this, mostly. Excuse me as I die. Mostly because I don't like the Pats, and I
Yeah.
like the Chargers. So, what are you guys seeing in that game?
Yeah, I think everyone's rooting for the Chargers.
I don't. Yeah, I mean, unless you're a diehard Chargers fan, which I was formerly until they moved, which I was mentioning to Nate. That's kind of ironic. I quit being a fan. Guess what? They make the goddamn playoffs. But whatever. I'm happy for them. But I just like I called it. I'm going to stick with the Saints in New Orleans and the Saints and Patriots in the Super Bowl. I understand the Chargers had something special happen last week, but when you're playing 5 or 6 defensive backs the entire fucking game, you tell me that the game plan of who they play last week,
Chargers.
who the Chargers beat.
Ravens.
Ravens, yeah.
Yeah, they had no fucking clue that was coming out. And stuff like that matters. Bill Belichick's got a little peek of what they're probably going to do. I'm going to give the same respect to the Patriots and Bill and Brady that no matter how much we don't want to watch them win, I got to give the respect to the veteran, that been there, that know this, that just has that. And I hope Chargers gives them a game, but I'll be shocked if Chargers win.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel like the Chargers have the better team this year, but whenever you're going to New England to face Brady and Belichick, it's not going to be easy. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Plus, this is a California team going to like a fucking 30-degree.
I was just getting ready to say, I wonder what the forecast is up there.
Yeah, I'll check that actually right now. But just like, all right, so if this was a neutral field and weather weren't an issue, I would say Chargers 100%. They have the better. First of all, New England's like 31st or 32nd in the league at sacks per game. They don't have a pass rush this year. They don't have a real great linebacking core, so the run game's going to be an issue. Their secondary's decent, but it's not great. So their entire defense is susceptible, basically. On the offensive side, if they can't establish the run, Brady's shown that Father Time is catching up a little bit. He hasn't really aired it out as much this year. So I don't know. I think the Chargers have a way to get it done, but they're gonna have to deal with the elements and deal with Belichick, because you know how Belichick is. He'll figure out what the Chargers want to do, and he'll find a way to shut that down completely and make them do something else. So I think part of it comes down to Melvin Gordon today. Like they said that he's iffy with that knee injury. If he's fine, if he's like good to go, then they can run or pass, and then I think it becomes a little easier. But if he's hobbled and they got to rely on like Eckler and Justin Jackson, I don't think it's going to be real great. For the Chargers.
Oh.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's transition from these games and talk about something.
One more second.
Okay, go right for it.
All right, I'm going to make a bold call.
Oh,
I think that you're going to see exactly what happened last year. And what's his name? White or whatever, the running back for the Patriots. What's his name? The one that
Which
they've quit
one?
using.
James
The one
White?
that,
Michelle,
yeah. Huh? Yeah, no. I
Michelle
think
or
James
White,
White.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, White. I believe he's going to lead be a big part of leading the Patriots to a win again.
Could
Yeah.
happen.
And I think that if you happen to have Hogan in your playoff contests, you're going to have a steal.
Mm.
It's just a way that Bill Belichick does things in history. I just think that he's going to wipe the dust off the guys he's been letting that he's been letting sit there kind of idle for the second half of the year. And I think that we're going to, he's going to catch the Chargers on their heels, not knowing who's doing what.
Yeah. So high of 26 degrees, low of 16 degrees today for the game.
So 26. So it's gonna be
Throw-
cold as fuck.
It's gonna be cold.
Throw in a wind chill factor.
Yep. Yeah, it's gonna be tough. But I don't know. I just hope the Chargers get it done. We'll see.
Bill's had them guys out in their underwear
Getting
practicing.
ready. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the Chargers have a very good run game. They have a good pass catching back as well between Melvin Gordon and Austin Eckler. And I think, it's not going to be as much of a disadvantage, the cold, because, okay, sure, maybe, what's his face? Laserface.
Rivers.
Yeah, Rivers isn't gonna have to pass be able to pass as much, but they can still get it done in the run game. So,
we'll see.
There isn't that clear disadvantage there.
I mean, Gates. I love Gates. I've been a fan of Gates since he's ever been into the thing. But Gates looks like the bigger version of Anderson, C.J. Anderson.
Mm-hmm.
He's lost half a step, which is still a step better than most tight ends, average tight ends. Keenan Allen, has he really, I mean, I know he's been nicked up here and there, but has he really impressed this year? Has he lived up to his standards? I don't know. If they shut down that run game and Gordon's gimped, everything's still, just as we talk, just keeps pointing to Bill Belichick and Buck and Brady sitting there doing their deeds.
Yeah. We all know Brady can, handle the weather. So,
goddamn Duke he could find a 4-leaf clover and he's lucky.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so let's dive into this PAPS, Gary. I want to introduce it to everyone. Now, for those out there, in the middle of your screen, you've got the PAPS database that Gary's really been spearheading and putting this together painstakingly. I'm not certain how the resolution is going to look on your device because it's such a big thing and we're kind of shrinking it into here, but this will at least give you a little introduction. We're going to go through, talk a bit about it. Gary's going to, give, where it came from, how he developed it. And we're going to this week have this on the website available free for anyone to use for now. There's a little mark there. In the future, this might be something that is a premium asset on our site. But for now, we want to, introduce this to the world and show this to, anyone if you're researching IDP, you really need to be taking advantage of charts like this that allow you to better compare players between themselves in positions so that you can, it kind of condenses their stats and shows, which one's doing better and whatnot. So Gary, give us some background on this. Let us know what we're looking at here.
Well, I've been using this on my own probably 3 or 4 years. When I first started writing a couple of years ago, I kind of had it in my pocket, but I didn't know where I guess you can call this a writing career, was going to go. So it's just like the start sit charts. I've used this kind of basics thing for myself for a long time, and it's just developed as I've continued to write and be a part of the IDP community. Um, my basic pet peeve when I originally started making this is before this, the only thing I ever seen was PFF grades. And not to knock those grades, but those grades are meant on real life situation playing football. It's what the guys are actually doing in real life,
Yeah.
which doesn't always translate over into fantasy football. And I knew that there was a way, and while I'd been using it, I knew there was a difference between the two in a lot of cases. I think a lot of what the PAPs will tell you or confirm is if a player is productive by default or if he is actually as good as what what we think he is. It just you've got to. It helps me personally when I look at it. And I want to mention it looks really damn good on the screen there. This is the first I've seen it like this since I've done all this work on it, and I've been working on my computer. This is sweet looking to me. But either way, the entire situation really will help you kind of break down in your mind just because a guy is productive on the field, who is actually the better player.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
In my opinion.
Yeah, and this chart goes even farther to where you can sort by different, I guess modifiers or different stat categories. You've got the obvious just going by your PAPs, or so who has the greatest PAPs, and you can look at that. The tackles, right now I'm sorted by tackles, so this shows Darius Leonard at the top and what his score is. And the snap percentage. But going even further, excuse me, into this, say you're in a sack heavy league and you want to know what the top sack producers, where their score is, so that you can compare. Very simple couple maneuvers here. That is the wrong way. All right, so you've got Aaron Donald here, sack leader for the 2018 season, 20.5 sacks. He comes out with a high-end PAP score. Whereas if you go down a little ways to Danielle Hunter, he's got an elite PAP score. So right in there, you can kind of look and see like who you might want to grab in your drafts based off of this, because as you see, Danielle Hunter he has more tackles. He's also an edge compared to a D tackle. So this is full all the players basically. Gary, did you end up cutting out anyone? Because I know there's some like special teamers that just don't get enough snaps that matter.
No, I didn't actually cut out anybody if they recorded any percentage of defensive tackles or defensive snaps.
Right.
That's the only ones that if they didn't record any in 2018, then they didn't make the cut. And then if you look, it depends. Most of the charts, of course, this is the overall chart.
Yeah.
I did have to, limit like 20% of the snaps, people that at least got more, because I mean, if a guy is out there for 10 snaps and somehow remarkably it shows up that he got 10 tackles, then his PAPS is not really factual based. You really got to look at the chart, look for the reds, look for all the greens. The more green, the better. I mean, it's just, it's kind of how we set it up there.
Yeah. So I'm showing right now, I've sorted by least amount of snaps. So you can see here, like, this guy's got one defensive snap, and so the at that point, obviously the PAP score, the lower the PAP score, the better. But if it goes too low, that means the snap count is not at a point where they're doing anything. So that's where you get this red. So you gotta pay attention. This isn't. I don't know how this is going to end up looking when we get it onto the website. Still working on all of that. But as far as what we're intending is for this red color to be, stay away from these guys. So if you're sorting, and you're looking all of these players with low snap percentages,
it's pretty simple to see too. I mean, you're looking at special team aces at the bottom.
Yeah.
It's basically what you're looking at. When they got tackles, when they got more tackles than they have defensive snaps, those are special team tackles. And I know when you're looking at the higher end, the more important you are to your defense, the less defensive snaps or special team snaps you play. So you start getting, you want to go all green. I mean, it's pretty cut and dry.
And what we're trying to do here also, we're keeping those in because we're going, the next step once we get this on the website is to go through the last like 10 years of stats, putting them all into this PAPS formula, into the database. That way you can go and you can start at someone's career and see how their trajectory goes, so that you might be able to use that to identify players that could be on an upward trajectory in the future. So there's a lot that's going to be coming with this. We're going to be launching the overall on the website this week. It's going to be free for all. And eventually we're going to be putting up the breakdown of the just defensive end players, just defensive tackles, like all in separate charts. That will eventually be a Patreon only service, or it might even be like a one-time pay subscription. And if you want to get ahead of that, our Patreon is patreon.com/IDP guys. Help us out. We're trying to bring you guys the resources for your research that you need, and this is going to be something that I think is going to.
You're not going to get this. You're
not going to get anywhere else.
Right. That's the only, just like Nate's expressing, I think he's having trouble. For us to continue to do what we're doing for you and offer that content that you're not possibly paying other places that you could get free from anywhere else, we're going to be offering that content that only we can give you, in my opinion.
Yeah.
If that helps.
Absolutely. That's basically what I was going for is,
not to pat myself on the back, but I'm going to tell anybody out there that's been, and you guys got to know this, what you're looking at is what has helped me over the last 2 years determine who to suggest to you people to win with.
Yeah.
And I got to say it's worked. I mean, it's just like the start sit charts. They work. This works. Believe me, it works.
Yeah. And the ability to sort different stats and everything and compare these players and to find out, I mean, because of the color coordination too, you're able to compare outside of their position groups too.
Yep.
The score itself doesn't necessarily translate.
Hey, Joe's here. I'm gonna go get him.
All right, sounds good. The score itself doesn't translate, but the color coding does. So you can look at where the tiers line up, even between who you should be picking first, between who you should be picking, second in your drafts and everything. So it's going to be a great resource. And
when Nate, I wanted to mention too, when we get to this point where you're got this all loaded on site and we're offering it to the Patreon, I will come up. I have it in my mind. It's just like how I had everything you're looking at's been in my head forever. And this past week I got to put it out on paper. So it was a process. I'll do a tutorial, live cast. I'll do something uh, to try to explain the best way to use the chart because there is a process to this. You look at you can sort by the overall tackles to begin with, and then you look at the PAP scores to the right. Then as you start splitting hairs amongst the players, well, look over. Do we know that the Jacksonville offense wasn't as good as the Kansas City offense? And you kind of look at a perspective. Now that's me going even deeper than what the basics are, because the basics are the more green, the darker the green, the better hit you're going to have if you draft that player.
Yeah, absolutely. Even looking right now, I'm looking just defensive snap percentage. People that played 100% of the snaps on defense, and you can even see here there's different variations between the players as the color coordination shows. So you've got Malcolm Jenkins, Miles Jack, and Justin Simmons, two safeties and a linebacker that have played 100% of their snaps in NFL on defense. And you've got the only one he's not even elite, he's high end, is Malcolm Jenkins for Philly. And then you've got Miles Jack, who has been a disappointment. Justin Simmons, who's been, I guess, serviceable at best. So yeah, he hits the green, and then as you go in through, you don't even really get into it. Your first elite here is Mr. John Johnson at 95% of snaps. So much you can do, so much you can find out in this.
If you would sort real quick, and I'll be the last thing I have to say really about this, but if you would sort that for the highest or the lowest PAP score for me, I want to show somebody. I want to show people, anybody that's going to listen to me.
Yeah.
When it comes to drafting, okay, scroll down to the green when we get to the relevant players.
All right. So you want me to go past Darius Leonard to the bulk of the green, or just?
Yes. When the green is where we start going to the main green.
All right.
Where you got green on the screen.
Yep, I got
all
green.
The way up. All right. Now the PAP score.
Yeah, it's
either that or I might be on delay behind you.
You are on delay.
Okay. What I'm trying to say is, when you go to draft and when you go and you're trying to make trades or anything to set up your IDP roster, if you start at this point where the greens are really strong and you know the players and you go down, you'll also not only be able to tell what players, but look at the overall. You're going to have linebackers, strong safeties. Then it's going to, you're going to have your few high-end DLs. But if you look at the overall numbers of the groupings as who's in that top section, that is who you're targeting by position.
Mm-hmm.
If that makes any sense. Like the corners, there are a lot less viable corners because your corners should not be somebody that you target, in my opinion, off the top to build your lineup on. And I think that if you look and you count and you see, well, okay, how many's in the top 64 the real green? There's not a huge amount of corners.
Mm-hmm.
I think it can help structure your lineup.
Absolutely. And it's a 3-color process too, because as you can see, like after, let's see, Darius Leonard, take out Van Der Esch and Clinton Dix, you've got Matthew Adams, linebacker out of Indianapolis. He's got a 5.51, which is a high-end elite PAP score. But then you look at his tackle numbers is good, and then his defensive snaps is average. So you can look and you would downgrade him compared to a Wesley Woodyard, who has that same range of PAPs, better tackle number, in that elite group, and then, a 68% snap percentage, so, a high end. And so you can you look, you've got to be able to identify those three. If you just go by one stat, one color, you could be it might not work out for you. So you look and you try and find those three colors matching up, and they play out really well to the guys that we would be talking about. Down
and don't for those people that are just looking for the information and not wanting to go in depth, is what me and Nate have just talked about for the last few minutes. Look, trust it. All the green.
Yeah, just look for
all the green. Yeah, it's a quick way to look at it. You can go, and just find the dark green all the way across, and those are your guys. Those are your guys to trust and in order,
Yeah, absolutely. So this will be available for our audience this week. I'm thinking Monday I'm going to be really kind of looking into this. Today is football, and gotta say we got a little drop in here. Joey the
What's
Tooth.
up, Joe?
Nice to meet you.
Yeah, get right in here. Get on that mic.
Yeah, you have.
We got Joey the Tooth in house. This is
What's
pretty
up, dudes?
awesome. First time. It's all been digital, so smile for the camera. There we go. So with that, we're gonna kind of wrap this up. Gary, you got any last words that you want to?
No, I'm just excited to get this PAPS grade chart out, and I really hope that it can benefit some people, because it sure the hell has benefited me over the years, and this is what I have used to help you people that are looking for those players that are a little under the radar to get the advantage to win, So, and I want to thank Nate and the IDP Guys website and all the fellows that are going to be helping get this out to people and spread the word more. I've tried to do it a little bit on my own for a couple of years here, and I'm really excited to have this out there for people.
I just want to thank you, Gary, you son of a bitch.
Yeah. So how's it going, man?
Pretty good. Just a nice little ride.
How was the weather?
Fucking cold, man.
Yeah.
Was it snowy? We've got like
no
5
snow,
inches.
But it's like 22 degrees outside.
Oh yeah, we woke up. We got about 5 inches of snow in a day and a half, something like that.
Yeah. All right. Yep. Well, for everyone out there, make sure you're subscribed to us on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, the IDP Guys. Go to the website, idpguys.org. On the sidebar, there is all of those links that you can get the podcast into your favorite podcatcher. Also, if you'd like to help us out, help us produce these PAPS things, the databases, and help offset some of the costs, patreon.com/IDP Guys. There's also a donate button on the website. Goes straight to PayPal. All of this goes into further expanding our IDP website, the database. We're going to be launching a podcast, which is going to include Joey the Tooth here, Gary H. Bogart 27, and Sam FF Stompy. Make sure you're following us on Twitter. I am at Nate Cheat. The show is at IDP Guys. At Joey Joseph Hagan. You should probably just change your thing to Joey the Tooth.
I really should.
Gary at H. Bogart 27, Sam at FF Stompy, Joe or John at OrangeMan3142. It's just so many of these guys, and they're all so great. And
this PAPS is just the beginning for 2019. I mean, not the beginning, but I'm just saying we know what we are going to be offering. Mm-hmm. You guys want to win now? You want to win in Dynasty? We're going to hook you guys up in 2019.
Yeah, we've got a lot. Like, this is the beginning. By this time next year, you're going to look back and be like, holy shit. Like, the amount of stuff that IDP Guys put out this year, amazing. So
and not repeat. No fluff.
Yeah.
No recycle bullshit. We're going to help you win.
No shooting from the hip.
No. No.
No shooting from the hip. All right. So
No.
thanks everyone for joining us, being involved in our Periscope this week. We've got maybe three more of these. Once Super Bowl hits, we're gonna do our final for the 2018
Later, Joe.
season. So
Nice to see you, Gary.
yep.
Yeah. Yeah. You guys enjoy your day of football.
Yeah, definitely. If you're in the playoffs, if your team's in the playoffs, good luck. If they're not, good luck for next year.